Hey, Greg.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Christoph.
Hey, Christoph. Dave Haley was here a minute ago. Then he made a really nasty noise and left.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll figure he's trying to work something out.
I'm also like having problems with the tech. That's why I'm having headphones now. My speakers don't work. So what's the basement? Ah, Dominic.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Dominic.
Why are you sitting in the basement?
It is not my bed. It's my studio. It's not the basement.
Ah, okay.
Not everybody's got a grand piano in their studio, Christoph.
Yeah, sorry. But at least mine is not pink.
Pity.
But I also thinking about adding some RGB lighting in the background for the ultimate YouTube content creator look. But yeah.
Well, that would look very good then, yeah. Speaking of pink, how do I change the awful green in HISE to a pink?
It's like a preprocessor. Search for
I've looked at the source code, but I can't figure out at which point.
it's called signal color.
Okay.
Just do a search for signal color and change it to any RGB value that is to your liking.
Nice. I don't want to mess with your corporate identity on the.
No, that's fine.
Just not a fan of green, obviously.
Yeah, I kind of figured. So, hi, David. Is it working now?
I can hear you, but it's coming out my speakers instead of the headphones. So I'm just going to keep muting every time somebody else is speaking, so I don't get feedback. Hello. Yes. Hi.
Hi. So long time no see. Should we start? Or is I think we are now 7. I think 9 people have committed to the date, but I would suggest we just start with whatever we want to do.
Yeah, sounds good. If anybody, I'm recording, so if anybody doesn't want their face in it when I upload it to YouTube, just send me a message and I'll pixelate it or something.
The face is fine. Just cut out the awkward silence at the beginning.
Yeah, so actually I would jump in because the last time I think everyone right now in this round has been there in the first HISE meetup, and I didn't. So I just wanted to introduce myself for the HISE community and just say a few quick words, if that's cool. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm Dominic. I'm since basically the beginning of HISE, like the sitting in a position right next to Chris, as I would say, like probably his wingman or something, as sitting behind, having this extra pair of eyes and looking at what he's producing and trying to do my best in, like helping out and probably also hopefully steering in omitting some kind of obstacles or also like trying to help in making HISE work and helping on its development course. So basically, my background is basically in art. So I did fine art studies and but with a focus on multimedia and everything connected also from the beginning with audio. So I got lots of cross references between audio and digital productions, media, video, everything. So and we're since long times also with Christoph. We're musicians ourselves, and we go back long time. Let's say it that way. And since then, I would say like 2017 or something, I've also been helping HISE in in like the complete development process, we also did products together. And since at least I think 2018, we also like server work. I digressed more like that I'm now also like in charge of the forum software, of the forum, of different other licensing servers, and all that, you know, additional stuff around the pure coding and content, also documentation. So I'm trying to be the helping hand that helps out in certain, you know, everything what comes up. So yeah, basically that's me and also my role, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah. So thanks for introducing yourself. I mean, I know you a little bit already. So basically, Dominic is the guy behind everything related to web technology. So whenever the forum doesn't work or some URL calls in HISE don't make it through, he's far more experienced in solving that than me. So, but it's nice to introduce him to the round, because last time I think it was too like the schedule didn't fit for you to be there. So yeah. So hi Dan. Hello. I mean, we all know each other from the last 1 or 2 times. I mean, in the second meetup, I wasn't able to join. You want to recap it for me a little bit? What happened there and something like that?
I thought this was the second one. Did we have another one? Have I lost count? I think I've lost count.
I think there was like this one HISE beginner.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I wasn't there for that either. Yeah.
But apart from that, I think it was only one meeting. So 2 meetings, and at the second time I couldn't join. So that's why I need a recap. If you think there's something worthwhile to discuss or to pick up from there.
Who was that? You were there, weren't you, Morpheus? You're muted.
There we go. I'm just trying to think. What did we talk about? Just a couple of beginner questions. What's his name? Bill. He explained the background of HISE, where it came from, which cleared up a lot of things. That's basically the main thing we discussed. Yeah.
Believe as well, we had discussed compiling a sort of list of bugs and priorities, which were supposed to be sent to you, but I can't recall who was supposed to do that and if it even got to you. So that was the gist of it.
Yeah, I wasn't there for that one. Okay, so that wasn't the beginner. That wasn't the newbies one. That was the second one we had without Christoph, sort of between the two. Yeah. And Bill said he was going to send that list. Yeah.
Right.
But Bill is missing in action, or so. Did anyone hear from him?
Yeah, he's been hiding. He didn't respond on the forum. I don't know. He was around earlier though, so I guess he's just busy.
Yeah, kind of figured. Craig, you're muted.
Yes.
No.
Is it better? Yeah.
Yes, now we can hear you.
So who else was at that one with just Bill, like the beginners group?
So that would be no one then. Okay.
There's no one there?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Who else was at the beginners group with Bill?
I was, yeah.
No, I wasn't.
Just you then.
I'm trying to think who else was there. No, it were a couple of people. I don't recall the names though.
No, it was just to get sort of their feedback about what was covered because we weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, if nothing comes to mind of like a particularly high priority, then maybe you could just write me in the forum if there's something if you remember it. Otherwise, I would just proceed with whatever we want to discuss now. So basically, for me, at the moment I'm completely zoned out of HISE. So I just came back from the theater production. And I would say I know about as much as HISE as you do at the moment. So I will definitely take a few weeks until I'm back in the zone. But maybe it's a good point in time before I dive into the bug things to like get a high level concept of what the next month or the next year should be focused on. So I can imagine that there's some kind of spring cleaning due. So like a lot of bugs, like with the recession that came into, or like new features that didn't work, I would exclude that from discussion because that's basically a no-brainer. But rather maybe like get hints from you what you think, like in the direction what should be new, or what you want to see that HISE could like take a lead in.
I'll just jump in here because I feel like Griffin Boy's tutorial on the C++ like really sparked a lot of people's interest in generating more externals for script node, which is amazing because I feel like that takes like a little bit of the work off of you, Christoph. So I personally would love to see like just more content around that. I'm dipping my toes into that, but if I don't know if you could like assist us with like a tutorial or something in the snippet browser, which could like kind of ease people into doing that.
Yeah, sure. So basically, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, the good thing is that I have only like a limited list of things that I need to provide, because from then on, like the normal C++ stuff takes over. But I think I should approach it like from a mindset who is not like a proficient C++ developer, or has like some basic knowledge of C++, but not like in this particular workflow, and just like try to pave the way to get that workflow up and running. Yeah, that's definitely something I can focus on.
Well, obviously, leaving aside the regression bugs and general bug fixing, I think there was a fair amount, whilst you're away, a fair amount of discussion around the envelopes, about at least wanting to get some modification in the standard AHDSR envelope, mainly for release shaping, I think. But being fully aware that you already had said you'd had some plan for maybe some multi-segment type envelope at some point in the future, but not attempting to stop you doing that, but at least just maybe give the envelopes a bit of love. I think if I remember correctly, was something that a few people said.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's at least one bug because the delay curve knob doesn't do anything, but there's just kind of like I think just a bit of general love is what it needs.
Yeah, but when we say general love, I think actually what it really means is just, can we have a release shape? That's it. That's all the love it needs. I could care less about the decay shape. No. Yada.
Yeah, I think I responded to that request already in the forum. The problem is that the HDSR is kind of optimized as it is right now. So basically, the current shape is derived by just like a multiplication, which gets this nice logarithmic shape. So if I want to change it to make it like an inverse logarithmic shape or whatever, then I would have to use a lookup table, and then we're back to the performance is getting tanked. And I don't want to oppose that on the basic module. So I think I leave it like this, and just like add one other flexible envelope kind of modulator. which you then can use for like stuff which require a little bit more of control. In the meantime, I tried to make the gap between the HDSR as it is right now and the flexible envelope not as big, so that you don't get like stuck in the middle like you do between, like, for example, the looper and the sampler, where there's always the question, should I use a looper or not? And there's quite a few projects that sit right between the two. And I think I need to, whenever I write new models, I have to make sure that there's no such a gap between those like it is with these two.
So how does the attack shape work then in the AHDSR?
The attack shape, I think
you can shape the attack.
Yeah, I think because you can just like subtract it from one or something like this. I have to look, but I think it uses the same envelope exponent manipulation for the decay curve, and as we all know, that didn't sit right. So yeah, I mean, step one is revisiting the code that I wrote like 6 years ago, and step two is writing new module. But I like for this module, the key factor is that there's no performance regression, because that's used on so many projects that even like and it's on every voice and on every sampler, so we can't really use too much performance there.
Wouldn't it be easier to just make an envelope in FAUST? I tried that, and you can make really creative ones. Just I can't use it because the silent killer doesn't work if there's more than one script. Not script, no, what do you call it?
So
The script effects in the tree.
Each of these solutions, quote unquote, using FAUST or not changing the existing ones, means that we create another thing somewhere. And that means, in terms of going back through a whole bunch of projects, that means a whole bunch more work, essentially pulling the old envelope out, bolting in some new envelope, checking that and making it, rather than just waking up one day and finding that there's an extra control on the AHDSR that we can control, right? So I understand the performance issue, but the actual development issue is essentially the inverse of that, i.e., yeah, I'd love to have a multi-segment envelope at some point to add in when and if I need it. But when and if I need it is on a whole bunch of projects that are already out there. So now I have to go back and pull those projects apart in order to bolt in some different kind of envelope. Whereas what I'm actually asking for, and what I think everybody else is asking for, is one more control on the AHDSR envelope.
So in this case, why not using a flag, a pre-processor flag, just to switch between old behavior and maybe a new one, or expanded actual AHDSR with new curves or something like that?
Perfect.
I mean, it's definitely possible to make an HDSR envelope that has a release curve and satisfactory CPU usage. So could we do that? And just replace the old module with the new one, and nobody would ever know.
I don't get why, Christoph, you need to use a lookup table instead, to shape the curve instead of just a log one.
A log one would be even more expensive, because right now the envelope works by just like multiplying the previous value with something a little bit below 1.
Oh yeah.
And so that's just like a multiplication, and even like a logarithmic function or a table lookup would be much more imperformant. But anyway, I think we are getting into a detail, or like into a detail which neither of us nine knows something about at the moment. But I understand the request for like not having yet another module, but kind of trying to go with the HDSR. And also what Dan said, if that's the case, then we can just like extend this this floating tile which shows the envelope to be controllable.
That would be nice, yeah.
Otherwise, this could also be like just one panel with some advanced script that is like available in the snippet browser, because I can imagine that like the amount of customization that's required, like what should happen when you hover over it, how exactly are the caves shaped, is there a drop shadow behind it, and so on. So maybe I'll try to do like a snippet before, and there exists an example. Okay, yeah. Maybe, yeah, I just searched this and try to clean it up and provide it as HISE snippet. And if that's not enough, then we can check. Yes, but it doesn't have the nodes for the curves. So you have to track on the edges, or how does it work?
Oh, do you mean you want little drag handles actually for the curves as well?
Yeah,
rather than
exactly. Just like another little node on each of the curves in between the main points.
The one as a snippet only has a X, Y, and you can only have this one node, and everyone, I get it.
Yeah, but still, I think it's in the reasonable scope of a script panel to make this work. Because with the floating tile, you have to you get the problem of data handling, like where are the parameters stored, and in the panel you can just store it and connect it to a given module. So otherwise, I mean, you could also add this envelope to the module state, like you do with the EQs at the moment. That could be something. Anyway, let's welcome Jeff to the session. I think, yeah, you're new. I haven't seen you before.
Who's that? Oh, Jeff.
You're still
Jeff's muted.
There we go. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, yes.
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm just here just to hang out.
Nice, nice. Since when are you working with HISE?
How long?
Yes.
I want to say it's probably been about a year. And I'm still working on this. I'm looking at this instrument now. I'm trying to finish. I kind of like hit the pause button for a few months. And now I'm back on it. Basically, it's finished. I'm still just doing all the sounds for the sample maps. But yeah, it's been a fun journey. I would say it's been about a year, although I promised myself I would be done with it in the fall.
We all do.
Now it's January, so.
Yeah, you are never done with it.
I know, right? God, Jesus. Anyhow.
Okay, nice. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet all y'all.
So, Christoph, while you've been away, I've made a bunch of pull requests. So, if you get the time, it would be good if you could have a look through them. I think, I tend to only make pull requests for things that I think will be useful for other people as well. So, there's other stuff in my fork, which is just stuff for myself. But I think everything there is probably useful to somebody else.
Yeah, that will be. Yeah, that will be step one in my journey back into development. Just like accepting all your pull requests. Sure.
Yeah, make sure I haven't broken anything though, because
no, I will do a quick code review and then we'll add it. All right. So on the other hand, I'm just like remembering something that came up in the forum topic. I think we wanted to talk about like this new ONNX runtime engine and then broadcasters, right? So basically, maybe start with the ONNX stuff. So basically, I was kind of hesitant to pull in another neural network inference engine because we already have that from Jayden, the RT Neural, which is awesome, but it's like very limited to this kind of real-time inference or running neural networks. That's mostly usable for guitar amplification, guitar amps and so. So whenever you want to do something else with AI and neural networks, like categorizing samples or doing some advanced non-real-time features, you quickly run into like missing network layer types in RT neural, because that's only it has that very specific use case in mind. So what I did was I evaluated a few other networks and frameworks and came along this one, and the integration was rather straightforward. So we went with that one, and basically allows you to run almost any kind of neural network. It has its own file format, ONNX. That's an open format. I think this framework is powered by Microsoft, but it's available for all platforms. So there you go. You can now use this for any kind of inferencing. I was using, or I was playing around with something which was in the back of my head for quite some while, which I thought would be like a good first hello world usage of an AI in HISE, and this was like the automatic, like an automatic detection of the release point in the sample. So basically, you have a sustained sample, and at some points the player stops playing and it rings off, and this AI should like detect the point exactly where to place this sample, where to place the release start offset, because this also like ties in very well with this new release start feature where you can draw in a sample and then it skips to the end when you release the node. And so I did some tests, and I met up with Dorian from Audit like before I went to Hamburg, and then we just jammed around for a few days with this with a few samples from him, and we came up with a model that works quite okay-ish. So it has like an accuracy of like 93% or so, and I think I'm not sure whether I've pushed it already to HISE or not, but it should be available soon, and I mean, it's useful for like HISE itself, but it's also like the other thing is that it acts like as a demo for like how to use this inference engine, which can be used completely through the JavaScript API.
So it's all within HISE, the training and everything?
No, you have to train it with external tools.
Okay.
Yeah, so in my case, I'm still running this Torch Studio thingy, which is a kind of HISE for AI. So it's basically like a GUI wrapper around the PyTorch framework. So, I mean, it certainly helps if you know like a little bit of Python, but you can also like use ChatGPT for this kind of stuff, because that's where it really shines, to crank out these snippets, how to load a model and so. But like you get like this nice visualization of the training curve and so on. So like the workflow is you train whatever you want in PyTorch, in Torch Studio or PyTorch, and in there you can export it as an ONNX model, and then just like that's like a file that's a few megabytes, and then you just load it in HISE and give it the data that it wants, and like one important thing, or like one missing piece in this chain was like the creation of spectrograms, because like most audio tech at the moment, or like most AI models that do some kind of categorization or regression, are working on spectrogram images. So in order for it to be usable in HISE, you have to be able to create spectrograms from whatever data the end user pulls in. So there has been also a little bit of work of creating, of being able to create spectrogram images from within HISE. That's through the FFT object. So basically you can then load any audio file, create like a PNG file, and just like drop that into the ONNX model and get the same result out of it. So that's kind of it. I mean, for anybody who hasn't like played around with neural networks yet, it sounds like a little bit of black magic, but once you get the hang of it, it's really funky because you can completely delegate the responsibility to this model. So at some points you have no idea why it works, but it works, and then it's fine.
So I'm completely naive with doing AI stuff. Is it possible to use it to get to generate new sounds, to train a model that could like generate samples or something?
At the moment, yeah, it could be possible, yes, but at the moment, the way that I've been using it at the moment is rather for categorization. So like one low-hanging fruit would be like categorization of samples into categories. So the user can drop in samples, and it automatically detects whether it's a bass drum or a snare drum or whatever, this kind of stuff. But also maybe loop detection. So you drop in a loop, and it also like extracts the MIDI information out of it. So you can layer it with something else. But like for the actual audio generation or preset generation, I can imagine that you need like some kind of complexity that's beyond my knowledge of AI at the moment. But like the tools are there, so basically it should be possible.
So you could use it for something like trimming legato interval samples, transition samples.
Yes. So basically, yeah. So for like internal development features, you can use it just like like I did with the release trigger thing. You have to create like a training set, and then like with the data, and train your model until it hits a certain accuracy, and then you can just like throw it in there. So for if you guys have any ideas for like workflow enhancement tools within HISE that could leverage this technology, I'm also like up for examples or ideas.
Yeah, looping sounds like a good one actually for finding loop points in samples like that we're putting into the sample maps, not that the user's dropping in necessarily. But also, yeah, I think cutting legato samples, because that's finding the right point on the transition, is something that I know takes quite a lot of time. So that would be another good one, I think.
Yeah, nice. I mean, with loop points, I mean, we have this auto loop point finder that just does an autocorrelation of the loop. I think this works particularly well on like the micro level if you want to shovel it around a few hundred samples. But for like the big one, like where you actually want to start the loops, I think that can work from the spectrogram. And then like this is first step, and then as a second step, use this autocorrelation feature that we already have.
Yeah, I've just looped about 1,000 tremolo samples by hand, so I would be very happy with something that I could just loop all of these for me. I tried using some auto looping tools, and it just didn't do very well because of tremolos. But yeah, something like that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, with tremolos, I can imagine that it's kind of hard. But I could also imagine that if you have like a certain set of samples that you can train your own model and then make it run on your particular data set, which might be like a better idea. Because, for example, I also noticed that like the release training thing works quite well on the set, on the training set. But of course, if you would throw in completely different things, for example, I could imagine that if there are like tremolo sustain samples, then it kind of struggles with the release point. But yeah, but that's up for. We'll find out when we get there. So.
Yeah, just to chime in, it's quite interesting that the whole focus a little bit shifts from you have a data set and then you have some algorithms, and then you get in a kind of back and forth and trying to optimize for one solution. But as with LLMs and the other big stuff, it's super hard to find a solution that fits for everything. So you have to then fine tune. And I mean, this whole approach is, I think, is just for many people quite new. And so this kind of then having data, optimizing your data set and getting back and forth in models is quite, I mean, it's has a lot of needs a lot of first wrapping your head around to get to a point where it then cuts deeper. But yeah, I think we're on a journey to somehow there together.
Yeah.
With the release feature that you've added, we've discussed it a bit before, but
David, your audio is quite bad at the moment. There's some buffer. Sounds
any better?
Yeah, no, it's perfect.
That's all right, is it? Yeah. The release feature, we've discussed it before a bit, but will it have a way to turn it off so that, because sometimes you want to be able to toggle releases on or off depending on what you're doing, like if you're using a big reverb.
Can you imagine?
And also for legato, you don't want it to trigger. Yeah, we discussed that before, didn't we?
Sure, transitions. Yeah, of course. I need to think about a way how to approach this best. Maybe like give it an event ID, so you can say sampler turn off release with the given event ID, and this way you could because I think if you want to globally turn off the release, you can also do it in some. I think you just have to set the release of the envelope to 0.
But you might want to have the envelope release, but not trigger a release sample.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think about something for that's just a small addition. Yeah.
Nice. There was something else with that I was going to ask. It was just being a bit glitchy for me. I think I made a forum post about it. I don't know if it's because I got multi-mics or something. But I'll wait till you've had time to find.
But I fixed the multi-mic. That was.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I recall from the last meeting, the number one issue was that loading in snippets from the snippet browser was overwriting some projects, or something along these lines. Has that been resolved?
I tried to fix something with that, but I think that's actually merged, where I think if you saved it was overwriting, but I think, was it you, Greg? You tested and it didn't actually solve the
I didn't find any new errors, but any new problems. But when you said that you kind of resolved it, you said like a day after that finally you had the same error again. So apparently it wasn't fixed, or maybe it's a multi-bug kind of stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it's the network of the other project, of your main project, that is overwritten. Sometimes it's files. In your case, Dave, I didn't have like project files per se overwritten. More on my side, it was more about the networks, like totally annihilated.
Oh yeah, okay. So with mine, it was that when I was saving the project, it was overwriting files that weren't even in that project because they were still stored in memory or something. I can't remember the details, but I fixed that, and that was for script files. But yeah, I didn't look for networks and things, so it's probably related.
Greg, you're referring to like DSP networks, correct?
Sorry?
You're referring to DSP networks? Like
networks.
Yeah, that happened to me the other day.
Yeah. So what I do now to be absolutely sure I don't erase my project is like I just close HISE and I open a new instance of HISE with an empty project I have on my side. I always have this ready empty thing. And so in this empty project, I open the snippet browser. So in this case, the snippet browser is not new because you have to close and open it anyway. And then when I want to reopen my project, I close everything and reopen the project again. So I know that it's not crossing anything, and
Yeah, but the idea of the snippet browser was that you can use it alongside your project. But of course, there are like a few mechanisms, because it still refers to the like you only have like one active project at the time, but the snippet browser is running in some kind of like how would you say sandbox mode. But it doesn't like exclude everything. So basically that it overrides the autosave files and the DSP files. I have to manually exempt that. So whenever maybe we just need to assemble a list of stuff that goes wrong and just like squash out one after the other.
Yeah, I think the separation is not 100% perfect, and I don't know if it can be anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it just like needs more like real world usage and squashing of bugs. Because like for example there was quite some overhead involved, so that you can include like external files into a snippet. And then there's like a command where you can extract that to your current project. If you, for example, if you pull in a new API, then you can API framework, then you can just like copy to current project folder and then use it in your project. That's like the idea behind it. But of course, this with great power comes great responsibility. So that's sometimes a little bit too aggressive. So.
Christoph, speaking of bugs, what's actually the best way to let you know about if something goes wrong? Or what's the most convenient way? I don't want to open a forum post every time.
I would say like
in GitHub or something.
Yeah. Try GitHub issues. I mean Aaron is quite active there, and because whenever I find a little bit of time where I say let's fix generic bugs, I go to GitHub and start working off the list, because there's like the information in there is most condensed. But it's always sorry.
I need to figure out first if it's actually a bug or if I'm doing something wrong, because most of the time it can be worked around. But I've got a couple of things that look like they're really hardcore bugs.
Yeah. So the recommended workflow for this would be like to open a forum topic where you can discuss, and once it's confirmed by another developer or by yourself or by me or whatever, that it's really a bug, then you can just take it over to GitHub, because there's like a list of stuff. You can also reference this forum topic in there for so I know that if I go in there, then I can retrace the steps and so. But the easier I can reproduce the bugs, the faster and the more likely it is that I fix them. So if you can like make an example snippet that reproduces
this, of course.
Or
Right.
Okay, so in the last meeting, we also talked about the graphic stuff, all the paint routines, SVGs, OpenGLs, all that stuff that are kind of all limited. They have like their own limitations in their fields, and currently I think like many of us like had some troubles to find perfect way of drawing things. Like yesterday we tried like, and 2 days before I posted like an SVG example, a simple SVG with alpha channel. It's not drawing perfectly, so it might not be a HISE issue, you know, it may be just a juice limitation, or I don't know. But when you paint inside a paint routine, you try to paint shadow or alpha channel, you have that strip things, you know, it's not smooth. And so they all have their limitations. And of course, the OpenGL that is not compatible anymore with Mac. And so the question was, what do we do? Can we see in the future an implementation of something that is less limited, and maybe that we can use for different kind of work?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the problem with everything related to graphics is that I'm kind of like I'm kind of dependent on whatever framework the operation system provides you. And so if you go with a pure software renderer like Juice, you obviously run into graphic performance issues if you expect it to work as fast as an OpenGL hardware accelerated stuff. On the other hand, like with every hardware accelerated graphics framework, you get get problems when it comes to like portability across different systems. So there will always be a trade-off between performance versus like stability on portability. And I don't think that there will be like one master solution that fits it all. It's rather that you have to decide for every project, do I need like a super complex UI, and then how do I put up with the issues of making sure that it runs smooth on every system? Because obviously we can exchange, or it would be possible to exchange tools with another software renderer, but the performance gains would be quite minimal. And at the moment, Apple is not completely depreciating Mac OpenGL. It's just like it's not clear for how long they support it. So yeah, but at the moment I don't have like a really good roadmap how to address this issue. But I don't see this as like a high specific thing, but rather in plugin development at all, since we're all using Juice in the end.
I seen recently that someone writing, someone who is not part of the Juice team, but very involved still in it, rewriting a new piece of, I don't know, wrapper to get around all the OpenGL and Metal stuff and everything. And it's not done yet, but apparently he has like quite good results. So I remember he was like seeking for help to push this further. And so Juice can make this giant step into the future already, and not like stay stuck in the past with like bad performances graphics. And so I have to find this link again. Dave, I don't know if you remember on the forum. I posted it like on the forum probably 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah, I think I read it. So I wasn't like completely absent. I once in a while I read some posts, but I didn't want to engage to emulate my availability. So I was lurking a bit. And I remember that is a promising thing, but we need to wait a bit how it develops. And also being said, I don't really want to migrate to Juice 8 at the moment. Because of licensing issues that still hasn't resolved to my liking. And it might be possible that we migrate away from Juice altogether if there's like a suitable replacement in the far future. But let's welcome Craig, who's also new here.
Hi, thank you. Very sorry that I came in late. I made the mistake of thinking that Doodle would send me like the invitation, or it would say like, so I didn't see it in my email. It came up, so I checked on the forum and found out that it's happening now. So
okay. Yeah, no worries.
But thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for providing this platform for making this framework to develop, and I'm very appreciative for just the experience that I've had so far, not only with what you have set up in the software itself, but also in the social atmosphere in the forum of how people are helping each other out. And it's very informative, and I feel like I'm progressing very fast because of the total environment. So I'm, yeah, thumbs up. This is great.
yeah, also like the community is only part my work. I think it's mostly David Healy who's assembled the nice all the nice people.
Yeah, he seems very
organic.
Yeah, I came in the middle here. I don't know how you've gotten to this point. Any questions you have for me, or should I ask you questions?
No, just, I mean, we have like a loose roadmap of things that we can discuss or chat a bit. And if it's more than 3 seconds of silence, then somebody comes along with a bug and a feature request. That kind of derails my roadmap a little bit, but it's okay.
Okay.
But
is that your real name?
For me,
Craig Van HISE.
Yeah, that is.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny coincidence, but I guess it's made it so that it caught my eye a little easier because it, it's part of my name. But yeah, David, nice to actually speak directly to you, or well, at least over the video. Very grateful for your help, and yeah, ever since, I mean, I asked a question. I had a little back and forth with you over time on the VI control forums, just occasional discussion, and then I asked you a question about HISE, about building MIDI plugins, and that just has spurred every day since that I'm now working on learning as much as I can about the platform to build what I'd like to make. So if anyone's not familiar with what I'm working on, it's my concentration is MIDI plugins. There's obviously lots of stuff you can do with samplers and audio effects, and I'm interested in all that stuff too. But my focus is to build specifically the MIDI plugins. I feel like there's a lot of room for expanse in that market. As when I looked for plugins that would do things that I thought people would have already come up with, I just found that they're not there, a lot of them. I see some that are inspiring in that direction, but I don't see a lot of MIDI plugins that I'm very satisfied with. There's only a few examples that I think are quite good. So that's where I am.
Nice. I think that also came up like as a talking point, the state of affairs on the MIDI plugin export side. Because that's like one of the things that HISE can also do, but it's not really like an established way or like an established workflow. Because like as you can imagine, every new developer who comes into HISE with like this kind of has a particular set of features for his particular project in mind, and sometimes if these align and I get the same multiple requests, then I implement it. But some often it is, as long as I don't like really use it in a project on my own, there's like I can only I can't guarantee that like the workflow is as smooth as it can be. But I second the opinion that especially with the scripting framework, HISE is particularly suited for this kind of event processing for the MIDI plugins. I think we're fighting a little bit against the non-standard way how different hosts handle MIDI plugins. But I think that's something that we could also like emphasize a little bit.
Yeah, there's some, I think the things recently that came up were some issues with aftertouch in script node networks. I don't know what the details were there. And also just dealing with other MIDI messages like sysx and stuff, and also being able to forward those messages.
Yeah, I remember.
So we still have this recurring issue with channel aftertouch being assigned to MIDI CC 128 in all sorts of odd places throughout HISE, or it should be assigned to CC 129. So we just probably need to clean that up too. So
you're a bit quiet, Lyndon. Can you boost your volume?
Sorry, losing my voice here. So there's obviously getting MIDI out of HISE and getting that workflow sorted, but also there's still some problems getting MIDI into HISE. Whilst I entirely understand this is about controller messages and there is no such thing as CC 128 or CC 129, doesn't actually exist. The pitch shift and channel aftertouch and whatever, but I guess the general standard.
I just stole that from Contact.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of industry standard. Pitch will issue CC 128 and channel aftertouch will issue CC 129. So we're a while ago you fixed the problem with it, so it's definitely receiving 129, but in stuff like the macro controllers, it's still doing weird stuff. I.e., you set it to 129, you move the pitch wheel, it moves. So it's reading 120. I think it's just a really tiny bug. So, but we probably just need to touch base with all of that sort of stuff to make sure that we're getting the right kind of MIDI messages coming in.
What's the current status on MPE and polyphonic aftertouch anyway? Is that already included in HISE? Can we use that? I've been trying to figure it out for days.
I see that some of it is involved. There's like a protocol for it. I personally haven't used MPE, so it's but I saw something in the docs that so Christopher can, I'm sure, talk about that. You separate it to different channels, and then each channel gets an aftertouch messages, some kind of where you've separated the messages so they can be directed towards each note, correct?
Yeah, that's how the standard MPE works. So basically every note is assigned to a new channel, and then then you have like different CC messages for like pressure, glide and slide and so on, which come in with the same channel. And like there are different layers of implementation for MPE on HISE. Like one is the MPE modulator, but getting this to work requires you to also use the MPE floating tile panel where you can assign connections and remove it, which is a little bit convoluted. But you can also like use MPE in a script node, in a polyphonic script node network. And
that's where I would need it, yeah.
Yeah, and in this case, it should like filter all the, it should filter out the channel messages and only process the ones that you need in there. But you have to resort to the standardized CC number. So for example, I think for slide, for like the vertical movement on the key, it's CC 77 or so. And the pressure should just be like a polyphonic aftertouch.
So if I just use the MIDI node and get the CC from 129, the aftertouch?
Let me just
that works polyphonic.
129 is channel aftertouch, not polyphonic. So as far as I'm aware, there's no polyphonic aftertouch available in HISE. Channel aftertouch.
So basically, you need this module here, like a MIDI CC module, and it even has like this enabled MPE parameter. And if you enable this, then it should like process like the MPE standardized control messages as it should.
Right, it's mostly aftertouch just split onto separate channels for each note. So yeah, that's it. I think it should be implemented, but I haven't tested it. But
well, if someone gets it running and we could do like an example snippet or something, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I have to dig out my Osmose keyboard and check it that it works correctly. But yeah, I can do that.
Osmose?
Yeah, I bought one. I thought I could use it in the current theater production, but it wasn't so useful after all. But it's not because of the device.
Can I ask another MIDI question? I want to ask about program change messages. So they can be taken in by HISE, and they can be recognized, and then I can use them in a plugin. But I have no way of getting program change messages to pass through the plugin, or to send them out if I wanted to, take in a message and then generate PC messages to send out.
I think I think David also mentioned this, that there are certain kind of events that are simply ignored by HISE, and this would be like one thing which I need to fix for like improving the MIDI plugin compatibility. So yeah, but I think I will ignore sysx messages and just like pass them on. But like program messages, we could even like, I think I've already reserved like a magic number in the event system for program changes. I have to look again, but
okay.
All right then. I think like one other thing that came up was broadcasters in the preparation.
I love broadcasters.
Yeah, so
I want more of them.
I still have to learn what they even are and what they do. Yeah, but they're really useful.
They're like callbacks. It's just, instead of, you know how if you subscribe to a YouTube channel, the YouTuber, when he posts a new video, goes to all the subscribers.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a broadcaster. So you're a listener, the subscribers are listeners, and the YouTube channel is the broadcaster, and he just posts one video and everybody who's listening finds out about it. So that's kind of the way to think about it. Whereas just a normal callback is he would have to send one video to each person individually.
Is the listening process any CPU load relevant?
I don't know how it works. Is it polling in the background or something?
No, that's the beauty. It's almost no polling involved. Of course, at some point you have there will be polling on like the timer level, but usually it's the opposite of polling. So as soon as an event occurs, it will be sent out to everything that has registered for an update. And this allows you to kind of departmentalize your code much better. So you just like implement the broadcaster at the source, and then for each functionality on the UI, on the MIDI processing, you just like attach a listener to it that will react in a very narrow scope.
But it's for single events, or can I pass like a modulation signal?
It's you could use it for like a modulation signal if you hook it up to a global cable, for example, but like the main use case of it is UI logic, where you want to like react your interface, react on state changes of your UI or input or whatever. So, and over time I've like, I mean, I implemented this like I think now 2 years ago or so, and over the time, I'm adding more event sources and more event listeners to it. But like the base system allows you to write to use an increased complexity of your project. So stuff that wouldn't be, or that would be like very annoying to develop and keep track of is getting pretty easy and lean to do with broadcasters.
I think one thing that is probably not missing but can be improved, at least for the broadcasters, I'm trying to get in it sometimes, but I don't have like much use at this very moment, so it's too sparse. So I don't remember each time I need one, and that's the problem, is just the little comments and the help content inside the window. It's not sometimes maybe not enough to understand really what this parameter do, or sometimes it's called optional, but why if I use one? Or I know Dave helps a lot for that. But maybe just the window can be improved in terms of just documentation and help.
I think the general documentation for broadcasters is confusing. basically. So I spend, every time I try and use a broadcaster, I have to go back and watch Dave Healy's video, and then hack around a bit until I've got somewhere near, and then half the time I'm sort of like saying, like you, Greg, it's optional. What does that mean? Do I put something in here? Do I just put an empty thing in here? What do I do?
Yeah, I can promise that I will make a session with Christoph and trying to figure out. It's also on my list, basically. I also found it quite convoluted and confusing a little bit. And I think from the concept is very powerful because this, like you said, like this, you have in one listener, you can do so much stuff with it, but it's too much options. And in the beginning, we have to first fix the main use case that works for the most cases that people need. And then we would have the more exceptional stuff. But I think it's also like a little bit UX related. So I think, yeah, we'll definitely have to.
It probably is. I mean, like, I absolutely understand the concept of broadcasting. It essentially comes out of the programming language I loved before all other programming languages, Smalltalk. So as a Smalltalk programmer, I absolutely understand how broadcasters are, what they are and how they work. But the implementation in HISE just I keep bumping into stuff. So yeah, if we could do something about that, that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly this, yeah.
All right. I mean, it's hard for me to comment on that because for me it works perfectly. But I'm open to suggestions how to make it better on the UX front. But like for me, I'm using this wizard thing as a one-click solution, and I think once you understand how it works, you don't need to think about it more. So, and on the other hand, it is a very complex system because there are like multiple like complex concepts behind the scene, whether you want to how you want to process queued events, if you want to enable it to be real-time safe, how what to do with if you initially register a listener, do you want it to receive a callback so it can be properly initialized and so on.
So it's a bit more basic than that. It's like, can we just have a list of the event types?
Yeah, but it's autocomplete or like
that's in the docs, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not,
isn't it?
Just like a whole bunch of the other event types or parameter types, they're just missing.
Like mouse callbacks. Like I find that you don't if you search for them in the docs that you don't find them, but you have to go find them on the page that they're on, like for the panels. So I made like a little, I just made a snip of the mouse callback events and things like that, so I can have a reference on the side, so I can keep looking at those. They're different for broadcasters, the event types, or are they the same?
Well, the mouse callbacks, it's the same. But yeah, what you're referring to there, that's, I think, an issue with the search feature of the documentation because it only picks up on certain keywords. That was commented on in the last meeting, I think, as well. There's like an issue there. But yeah, for the mouse broadcaster, it's pretty much exactly the same as the mouse callback for a panel.
Okay. But they are in the docs. All the events are listed for the broadcaster somewhere?
I think so. We've got like attached to complex data, attached to EQ events, attached. I don't know. Maybe there's some that aren't there, but if they're not there, they'll probably show up in the wizard.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically,
don't use the wizard.
Hmm?
And then there are those of us who don't use the wizard. So I'm just trying to write code here, right?
But there's only so much I can do to help you get it faster, and I would really encourage you to try to wrap your head around the wizard, because in the end you also get like a list of events, and it once you get the hang of it, it basically creates this boilerplate code for you that just connects the bits and pieces that you need.
I have a question about the naming. So it's asking about well, the items to attach it to, the components to attach too, because you have the sender and you have the receivers. And I noticed that in the receivers box, you have to type out the name of each individual one. Is there some way to get it to do sometimes I have lots of components of a similar type. Is there a way to do it like when you get component button and you don't use the number, it just gets all the ones with button in the name? Or can you do it this similar in the wizard? Because I might want to add a bunch of receivers, dozens at the same time.
I do that in the basically if let's say I've got like 5 buttons 0 to 4. When I use the wizard, I'll just put in one of the buttons, and then I'll just edit the script afterwards to put in my array that is a reference to all the buttons.
Yeah, gotcha.
You could also like use the content get components with the regex as an in-place argument for I mean, it gets a bit, this line will get a little bit convoluted, but if you don't want to spare another variable for the array list, that would be something to try out.
David, you'll have more videos coming out on broadcasters. I think you've mentioned this.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much to cover there, and people want them. So yeah. I mean, I think I did one recently. I think the micro tuning panel, I use broadcasters in that as well, because I'm using them all over the place now, so they'll just pop up. But I'll try and do some dedicated ones as well.
Nice.
So I have completely unrelated, just wondering, how are we looking for dynamic components on the UI? Christoph, I know you started work on that like a few months ago, and it came up in the forum again.
So much to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I started with a system that allows you to like create. Let me recap it a little bit, because I think I got it to 80%, but it needs like some polishing to be able to be used by it. But it can be fed with the JSON data from like an interface, or you can write a JSON yourself, and then it can dynamically create like an UI component, which you can also attach callbacks to. And like the prime use case will be to connect it to effect slots, either for hard-coded master effects or like the ones with the stock effects in HISE. So you can finally implement these dragging panels with dynamic FX chains. I was before script node kind of take off and allowed you to like write proper effects. I was kind of hesitant to put that in because like the limitation of the stock effects in HISE led you to I didn't see any value of being able to drag around this dynamic the curve EQ and the stock reverb implementation. That's the stock reverb. But now that you can like add your proper effects in there, I think that's like one of the missing pieces for making like good multi-effects plugins.
Yeah, 100%. That's like my personal use case for it. So 2 questions. Will these be like new components, or will you be adjusting the previous ones, like the slider and button?
They are basically clones of the new of the existing components. Like one thing that I have to overcome in this process is that the every UI component is currently also like a part of the data model of the preset system. So this is why they're so static and can only like create it on runtime. So but on the other hand, it covers pretty much every use case that you have for an UI component, and if there isn't, you can write it with the panel. So in this case, and also like one thing is you can like create the interface in HISE with the interface design, and then just like press J, and then you get this JSON list, and it kind of can pass this JSON to create this dynamic UI.
I have a question about this this feature, because there's a design that I'm working on where I would really like to be able to clone, say, a panel with stuff on it, so multiple components as a little device package. I want to be able to just hit a plus button in the corner and have it clone all the settings and all the contained data in those panels. Is this what that will be able to do?
Yeah. For this kind, I would definitely suggest to use that system. And I mean, it still leaves. It still gives you like the burden of data management. So you somehow have to process and store the values that you then can clone and so. But I can also imagine that I can tie it to the slot effect. So for example, if you drag it around, it automatically swaps the order behind the scenes. So you don't have to script that specifically, because that's like such like a highly or like a common use case for these type of plugins. So the idea is basically to just like streamline that entire process of making a dynamic FX chain within with the use of the hard-coded master effects and the effect slot system.
So that leads me to my second question, because you said it's 80% finished. So it already exists in like the current development branch. And is there an API for it so that we can start accessing it and maybe playing with it?
Let me just see. It might be possible that I've even reused an existent. Is it in the viewport? No. Okay, into the HISE source code. Because like the development branch, there's no like hidden branch, so it's somewhere in there. But I can imagine that I have deliberately omitted it from the scripting API until it's ready. But let me just search in it. But at the moment, I can imagine you won't have any fun with this.
Are we, when you're talking about dynamic, what is it we were saying? They're dynamic
Components.
This is like when you have like a plugin like Amplitude and you can move around effects modules, basically, is what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the idea is so you can add like a knob to your UI that wasn't there originally for whatever components now, whatever modules now being added. So you can add extra buttons and sliders and things dynamically to the interface.
But the user
don't have to do it all.
If the user can do that, someone who's using the plugin can do that, like move around in effects.
Yeah. So if the user moved an effect and that effect had more knobs than the previous effect that was there, another knob can magically appear, and then they'll have access to all the controls of the module.
Okay.
Yeah, technically HISE already supports this. Like you could hypothetically do all of these with like a panel. But yeah, it gets pretty complex trying to script that all.
That's almost exactly what I do, right? I basically say, okay, so I've got 45 different effects. What's the maximum number of controls in any one of them? That's how many controls I make across the, say, 8 or 10 slots that I've got. And then just like Christoph says, it's just a data management to swap them from one place to another. I don't even think this is really that required.
Yeah, I do that as well. I store all the values in a slider pack and then swap them all out. But it'd be nice if what Christoph said, where when you swap the effect, the data associated with it is also swapped out.
Yeah, so basically almost everything is already possible with the if you kind of set your data model correctly and say, okay, every effect has up to 5 sliders or so, and then you have like hidden sliders that you show up and do the scripting, and you can implement everything right now, and people have already done so, myself included. But it's a really ugly procedure, and is annoyingly complex without the necessity of being so. So I thought, like, now that like ScriptNote offers you the ability of creating actually good sounding effects, that's like one key request for like being able to chain them together dynamically for the end user.
In the waiting, there's another solution, but it's quite like convoluted. But you can just keep one panel as a parent panel and then create a child panel, as many as you want for buttons and sliders. So it's quite dynamic, and but I agree, like child panels are maybe not always easy to handle for when you never done it. But yeah.
And I would also advocate of phasing out this possibility at all, because it's super glitchy and prone to crashes.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, I never used it, and I think everybody, every time someone asks me, I say don't use child panels.
Yeah, I remember that a while ago, probably 2 years ago, we had a lot of problems, and I asked you to for bug fixes that you have done, and since then it seems to be quite stable.
Okay.
Yeah, you have a binary with that, like using almost.
Yeah, the problem is like the ownership is not super clear, so it keeps a variable in the panel, but it's like reference counted. So if you have a reference in your script somewhere in some callback, it's not guaranteed to be cleared, and then you get stuck with a panel that has should have been destroyed a long time ago. So it's just like a bad implementation.
Okay.
So anyways, I just like posted a link to the source code. That's basically the stub that I have to that creates the stuff. But it's not like wrapped in the scripting API yet.
I'm still struggling to understand why we need this. I don't. I mean, I make 10 panels with 10 sliders in them, and then I have a whole bunch of JSON that defines what an effect is and how many sliders it's using and what the text is that goes underneath them. And when a user chooses an effect, I just look it up, put the correct number of sliders in the right place, attach them to the hard-coded master effect. Now I have to manage that data, and I also have to manage the XY position of these components. But I don't understand why dynamic component would be any better than that, because when the user chooses big fat reverb, I'm still going to have to go away to some data source and look up, well, okay, what are all the controls I require for this and where do they need to go on the panel? I'm already doing that without dynamically creating the components. Yeah, you're right in that every panel has got 10 sliders in it, and at any given time I might be only using a half or a third of them, but it's not really that big an overhead, is it? Or do I just not understand what's going on?
No, basically you've been through the complexity that I want to remove from the user. And of course you say, no, it's not so easy, but can you drag around this panel smoothly and it updates the order of effects? And what if you have like a combo box in one effect that selects different models, and then you have to drag around, then you have to reserve 10 combo boxes, create them, and so on. It's like, and this doesn't have to be the case. So I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's also not super efficient to do so. And if you start doing like complex multi-effect plugins where you want to chain like 16 effects after another, then it quickly like the complexity explode exponentially.
That's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. Is I'm building a multi-effect processor with 8 slots in it. Each of those slots can have one of 45 different effects in it. So, and each time I want to add a new effect, all I do is add a small piece of JSON into the plugin itself to describe the name of that effect, which I tell, and the number of sliders and the number of combo boxes that it uses, and how they're attached to the hard-coded master effect, and the piece of code just goes away and does that every single time. It's just repeating the same vanilla piece of code, but dependent upon some data model that I've described. Yeah, and I understand that that's possibly a convoluted and slightly difficult thing to do, but once you've done it, it's essentially, for me to write a new script node effect with, say, 5 or 6 controls in it, and compile it as the DLL, and then write a very small 8 or 10 lines of JSON, and it's done. And when you want to swap these from position, the effect in slot 1, drag it across and swap with the slot 2, then yeah, I've got a piece of data management to do. Basically, what I'm doing is visually swapping them over, but then going back to those 2 hard-coded master effects, grabbing their values, storing them in some temporary array in each case, and then flipping the effect and writing the data back. So I guess it's maybe it's just because I've got a way of doing it, and it seems really easy that I don't know the value of this, but maybe that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I also implemented some point ago when we did HexRect with Audit back in the days. But I also imagine back then it was terrible to implement and super annoying. And right now I understand once you got through the pain of setting that up, from then it works, but it's not very extendable. For example, what if your project has like a slider pack that you want to control? That would be something that the
you are entirely right. That if
or like a filter display,
I need to, if I need a filter display or some kind of UI element that I've not already got in there, then I have to go add that UI element to all 8 of my panels and hide it most of the time and just use it the one time. Yeah, sure.
And what about the MIDI learn? If you have like a slider that is that has been that has MIDI learn CC, how do you switch? Like if this slider is used for another effect after that, it keeps the old one, I guess.
Yeah, good that you mentioned. I have to take care of that too. That it
hi, Bill.
Consistently. So hi, Bill.
You're muted.
Still muted.
Ah, there we go.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Hi. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. I am
Nice.
fabulous. I looked on the forum. I've been away a couple of days, and I'm like, oh, there's a meeting. I'm like, oh, what is it? It's like, oh, it's now. Oh, what?
Yeah. So how was the? I think you and Morpheus, you were the only ones participating in the beginners meetup that has taken place a few weeks ago, right?
I was there.
Yeah.
Craig, you were there too. Okay.
There were a lot of people there.
Okay, nice. How was it?
You guys tell me.
Oh, it was good. I really enjoyed talking to Bill. I really enjoyed the avenues that he talked about. Yeah, I mean, the FFT is certainly very important for any audio engineer and people into DSP. So any information on that and usage of the fast Fourier transform is, of course, good talk.
Oh, that was okay. So I definitely missed something because I'm into FFT right now. So
Me too. Would definitely like to hear that.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I think
To implement.
you guys decided you wanted to really delve into FFT in the next session. So I am all set to do that.
Yeah. I understand the principles of FFT and the math behind. Is more about like actually coding it in the C++ and not only coding it, but as a real-time usage, because I know there are some differences when you want to FFT a static signal versus real-time one. So the only thing I think I really need is like make the transformation and then do your stuff with the bins you have, magnitude and phase, and then transform it back, do the inverse. So I think once you get like the transform and the inverse, what happens in between is like up to you, I think. So yeah.
Okay, we'll do that.
What I would really like to know about the FFT is something that you're working with in Prism, dealing with the identification of rhythmic events and separating different like polyphonic events as different voices, essentially, I guess, you know, hi-hat, snare, and things like that. It'd be very interesting in understanding how that identification can take place to be able to do, in my case, for use case for real-time MIDI use of audio rhythmic events, but you know, obviously people would use it for polyphony, chords, and harmony, melody too.
Sure.
But am I right assuming that everybody who's talking about FFT right now is trying to use it on the C++ level, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, because like there is this FFT object in the scripting layer, but it's not since we need to go into a real-time performance mode, it's not super usable at the moment. As soon as, I mean, like if there's like a super trivial, like perform the FFT, multiply all bins with like something and go back to it, then it's fine. But as soon as you are going into the sample bins, and then you are hitting like the limitations of the JavaScript engine pretty fast. And this is why I'm not super motivated to like expand on like the documentation for the FFT object. I will use it for creating these spectrograms that you can feed into the neural network engine, but that's about it. And I'm rather trying to reserve that for the non-real-time mode.
Because what you're saying is that, sorry if I misunderstand that, you're talking about the JavaScript, the HISE script object of FFT.
Yes.
How is it related to the C++ one you can use? Because I'm trying to, what I tried lately is like to reference the juice FFT object. So
yeah, just a wrapper around the juice FFT. But like the problem, like the overhead of the scripting calls is negligible if you compare to like performing the actual FFT. But if like the processing part that you are doing inside of it exceeds a certain complexity, then the performance overhead of the scripting engine acts up, which opposes like a kind of soft limit of what you can do with the scripting layer before it gets annoying. And so I would just like advocate that that we try to use the C++ layer for it, because then you get native performance for whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
So is the FFT operating inside of script node in the use case you're talking about, Greg?
Yeah, it's as a third-party C++ plugin. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but you should be able to just use the juice FFT. Like this should be like included in the part that's compiled when you compile in a script node network.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. So sorry, maybe I'm just not explaining myself like very well. But yeah.
Okay.
About the juice FFT inside the C++ third-party node. Yeah.
And in there it picks like the best available implementation of the actual calculation. So that should be good.
Okay.
But maybe I include this as one of the examples when I expand on the C++ side of script node.
That would be neat.
I see we have a new guest.
There you go. Is it Stefan? That was pronounced?
Yes, Stefan, can you hear us?
You're muted at the moment.
Hey, Stefan.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Late. I'm just going to listen to you guys for now.
Okay, nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if everybody knows you already, but basically, Stefan, you're like the mastermind behind FAUST at the moment, or like the main contributor, if I understand that correctly, right?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm working on FAUST since a lot of years, and with Christoph, we were mentoring a student doing the HISE FAUST integration like 3 years ago, I guess. And yeah, and I'm following what you guys are doing on HISE, but a bit behind because I'm not really using HISE as a platform. Don't have time for now, but I can help from time to time.
Yeah, sure. But whenever something regarding to FAUST pops up in the forum, you're pretty quick with responding. So
yes,
yeah, that's very nice to have you like an active member in the forum for this.
Thank you so much for that, Stefan. He helped me a lot during the past days.
Yes.
I remember us doing the bit crusher, the Mueller bit crusher thing.
Yeah,
thank you so much. That was awesome.
Wow, I'm like a huge fan, Stefan. It's amazing work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, I was wondering if we could even improve the integration at some point, but for now I would need to go a bit deeper into what is already working, and yeah, probably too much for now. But
yeah, I think back when we make the scope of the integration for this Google Sum of Code project, I think we sketched a few things that would be like on the far roadmap, like integration of sound file import and so on.
yes. Yes.
So that would be something that we could tackle at some point.
Yes.
Also, I think there are some kind of soft issues with getting modulation signals out of FAUST. I think we're using the H-bar sliders to read out the signals, but that can be further improved, I think. But apart from that, I think, I mean, once in a while there are like some issues with either the update of FAUST or HISE, and then we have to make sure that it stays compatible. But all in all, I found this to be like a very very stable and powerful workflow. And I also think that it kind of sparked the development of many effect-based plugins with HISE, which use FAUST as the backend for the actual development.
Yes, this is very nice. Looking at that from the FAUST side, yes, very nice to see you guys are doing very nice plugins with HISE and using a bit of FAUST inside. What would be the next big thing with FAUST is an on-demand primitive. So basically, it will be a way to this will control the rate of computation, something we wanted to do since a lot of years, and we have a basic thing working into a special backend. So we need now to update every backend to have this new primitive inside. So one thing that will be very nice is that you will be able to deactivate some part of the audio graph. So possibly you can then design a very big DSP with FAUST and only have part of it running at some point, which is something very nice in your use case in plugins, basically. And we hope to have this during this year. So, but I cannot still cannot give a precise date for the release of this feature.
Yeah,
but we hope to have that.
Yeah, that's certainly nice. I mean, for any kind of branching, there are a few possibilities already in the script node network, but it means you have to run multiple instances of FAUST for every branch that you want to take. Yeah. So to have that all into in one FAUST patch is certainly something worthwhile, and will be picked up by us very, very warmly. Actually, we have been before, right as you joined, we have been talking about FFT processing, which there has been a lot of interest in, but last time I checked, like the whole frequency domain was still a little bit sparse on the FAUST side, right? Since it was
part was because of this very reason, not to be able to control the computation rate. So we hope that with the on-demand primitive and with some additional stuff, we will be able to do spectral processing in FAUST at some point. This is. Yeah. And we hope also to be able to do upsampling and downsampling. This kind of thing will be a direct consequence of the on-demand machinery.
Nice.
Amazing.
And we have some also nice improvement in the code generation. And Jan Orlare is the bright mind behind the FAUST language itself, and he's also working on improving the way delay lines are generated. And in some cases, we can gain a lot of CPU just by having the code generator discover the best way of generating delay line, especially for small delay lines. This kind of thing. We still have a bit of CPU that we can gain by improving the code generation. Outside of the on-demand stuff, we still have, and we hope to be able to release everything together, the on-demand and the improvement of the delay line generation.
Wow.
I remember at some point, I think Linden ran into a problem once where the compiled code of FAUST generated like a delay line buffer that was too big for the compiler. Because like I think it's a static C array of float numbers for the delay line. And if that exceeds like 2 megabytes or some compiler, I think Xcode kind of joked on the compile stage of this thing.
I generally speaking just added a whole bunch more. There's the preprocessor that tells me how much delay line I can get in HISE, and I just up that number very large. But
there is one thing that could be improved into the HISE FAUST integration. We have for the delay line, for example, we have several options that you can use to change the way the delay line is generated. For instance, by default, right now we use a delay line using power of 2 values so that we can do a wrapping, a faster way of doing the wrapping index, basically. But this consumes more memory. So we have an option that can be used to change the way this delay line is generated and to avoid this power of 2 size and having a bit slower way of doing the wrapping index, but using less memory. But for now, obviously, in HISE, we only use ad hoc set of compiler option. What would be nice would be to give the user the way to change and add other options than the default one. Like we had the discussion using a double samples inside the FAUST DSP. So this is also an option that you can give to the compiler at compile time, at FAUST compile time. So if we want to improve the integration, we can also open the fact that the user could change the set of compiler option given to FAUST. And then you have to tweak the option if you want, if you need to really optimize your code, then you can discover the best set of options for a given DSP. This is something we could improve at some point.
Yeah, that would be. I can imagine that we have to watch out that people do not abuse this feature with some weird compile flags that are guaranteed to not work. But it's definitely like for these kind of edge cases. I think the compile error, now that I remember, it had to do with the polyphonic container within HISE, which multiplies the FAUST object for each voice, and it creates like a statically compiled big object, and therefore it multiplies the big delay lines.
Yeah, that was it. Definitely. I just stopped using it.
Yeah. But
so, well, just giving some ideas of what could be improved at some point.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right, guys, I've got to get going now. I think I can leave the call going though. I'm not very familiar with Zoom, but I think I can just leave this going. You guys can stay here.
Yeah, I also have to leave at 7 p.m. like 7 minutes from now. I have to make dinner.
Yeah. Me too. We're all out of here.
Oh, well, shall we just wrap it up then?
Yeah.
Dominic, please fix the search on the forum.
Okay. I will get at it.
But thank you for all the work you've done on it.
Yeah.
It is much better. Thank you for all your
I like
work.
the new font. Much easier to read.
Yeah. Nice to see you guys. Welcome back, Christoph. Stefan, it's like meeting you is like meeting a rock star. Very, very cool. And see you guys around.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you all. If any of you don't want to be in the video on YouTube, let me know. And I said this at the beginning, but some new people here, and I'll just pixelate you and I'll remove you entirely, whatever you want.
Merci,
Thanks so much, everyone.
I feel less alone with a new French.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
So I'll also leave. It was really nice talk to you again. Finally, now I have like a few things on my list that I can scramble over the next weeks. But it's fun to be back working on HISE.
Do you mind if I ask you just one more question?
Yeah,
before
sure.
Hopefully it's not too expensive. But this is about licensing and the content of the work that I'm making. I'm very interested in contributing to HISE resources. And my basic plans are to release a number of free plugins that do basic MIDI utilities, and then have a next tier of a few paid plugins that do more complex interactions between different MIDI activities. How does it handle that people deal with the intellectual property here? So if I release a number of, say, these free plugins, can I just contribute them to your snippet library, or like give so that they're available if people want to take them apart and make use of them, or what do I do with them? And how do people establish that threshold between what's like the open to everyone and what is the proprietary things that are just their own?
Well, so HISE basically just copies the existing licensing scheme of JUICE. So either you have like a proprietary commercial license, or you use the GPL license for your code. And basically the threshold is exactly at this point. So if you if you want to publish your work under the GPL license, all you have to do in order to do that is to provide the user the ability to fetch your code. It doesn't have to be reconnected to HISE at all. So as long as you post a GitHub link to wherever you publish the binaries for the plugin, then you're totally good to go. And of course, you can drop me a link, and then I will link it to it on the HISE website as a reference. But apart from that, there's no like restriction or whatever. It's basically the GPL license. And as soon as you want to use it for like proprietary license, then you have to get a choose and a HISE license under the second the license details available at each website.
And in the case you want to contribute to the HISE snippets, just you could there in the forum there is one category with this with the snippet waiting list, and the otherwise you're free to do. I mean, everyone handles it a bit. Of course, you have some kind of hard projects that's going to be proprietary, or if you want to contribute, please. I mean, we all like searching through this thing and getting some ideas or something is can be quite useful, especially when there's some kind of like base things hooked up, and to get one step further is very much appreciated.
Great. Okay.
Sure. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I would just like to be able to contribute back. So I guess my idea then would be to take these dozens of, at least a dozen MIDI utilities, and then be able to, when I release them as the free level plugins, be able to have these concise snippets of what each of these things does, and can contribute to put it in the waiting list there and see if people would like to use them.
Yeah, so for these kind of contributions, it's always good to like aim at the most to keep the scope of each individual part or module as narrow as possible. So people can just like pull in the functionality they want to use for their own project. But it's
I'm looking at the very small, like one function at a time. Like this just filters notes. This filters notes in a different way. This transfers one CC to another. Really small, concise functions that do these things. Changes channels, all the basic building blocks. But I find that when you get all of them together and add them up, then you have a really powerful, you can build so much out of these little tiny things.
Yeah, sure. Cool. All right, guys. Do you have anyone else has any last questions or so before we head off?
Good to have you back, Christoph.
Yeah. It was. I kind of had like a little bit bad conscience because I left you rolling for like 2 months, but I promise this will be. I'll do like another theater production in 2026, but like for next year I will be like steadily working on HISE without any kind of big break like this.
That's good to hear. We spared you the bug complaints, so we'll overwhelm you next time. But thanks for meeting with us all.
I'm looking forward to the big pile of things I have to do that has accumulated. Also nice to meet you too again, Stefan. It was really great. And then we'll just like hear from each other if there's something to discuss or if there's a new feature. And if this new model with the branching is getting some public review, you can just hit us up, and then I will include it. Maybe even in an experimental state where people like us can like dive into it and play around with it. That would be great. All right then, guys. Then have a great day and see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.